UFOs come in all sorts of mind-bending shapes. Forget the typical flying saucers. People have reported seeing UFOs that look like dumbbells, hats, and even giant washing tubs. Some sightings are so strange they sound like something out of a sci-fi dream, with flying machines that have wings flapping like a bird. These bizarre objects range from tiny glowing orbs to colossal ships the size of football fields. The classic flying saucers usually measure around 35 to 50 feet across. Some have been seen zooming in and out of the water, leading to tales of unidentified submersible objects. One particularly eerie incident involved a Soviet icebreaker that witnessed a glowing sphere shoot up through the ice, blasting the ship with shards of ice as it rocketed into the sky. UFOs come in 8 main types, each with its own wild shape. First up are the light forms. These are glowing orbs, beams, or even towering columns of light that hover mysteriously in the air, without any solid structure. Then there are the spherical UFOs, which can be as small as a basketball or as massive as a house, perfectly round like a giant floating marble. Next, we have the iconic flying saucer, the classic disc everyone pictures when they hear UFO. These sleek disc-shaped craft might sport domes, fins, or other futuristic features that make them look like something straight out of a sci-fi movie. Following them are the egg-shaped UFOs, smooth and oval, floating silently in the sky like gigantic otherworldly eggs. Next, we have the cigar-shaped UFOs. Long, sleek and cylindrical, often tapering at the ends and sometimes leaving a trail of vapor as they streak across the sky. Then there are the bizarre rectangular UFOs, which can range from the size of a pool table to something as massive as an aircraft carrier. These are mostly spotted in South America and add a whole new level of strangeness to the mix. Triangular UFOs, once rare, have become increasingly common. They're usually described as massive, silent, and intimidating as they glide overhead. But the real head-turners are the shapeshifters. These UFOs can actually change shape right before your eyes, in ways that defy logic and physics. And let's not forget the oddball shapes like top-shaped, diamond-shaped, and boomerang-like UFOs. People usually describe UFOs as either completely solid or designed like high-tech spaceships, with rooms and compartments inside. What we know about the interiors of UFOs mostly comes from those who claim to have been abducted. A deep dive into these reports reveals that many abductees talk about seeing things like tables, computers, chairs, shelves, cabinets, and benches inside the craft. The atmosphere is often described as cold and clinical. Though in one oddball case, someone even spotted a pile of dirty clothes in a corner. Talk about an extraterrestrial laundry day. As for animals, they totally lose it when UFOs are around. Dogs might go berserk, barking, howling, or even foaming at the mouth. Cats get seriously hissy, sheep stampede, horses rear up, cows might just drop down, and birds suddenly go eerily silent. What's even weirder is that animals often sense the strange presence before humans do, reacting to something unseen long before we realize something out of this world is going on. It's believed that animals might freak out around UFOs because they can pick up on things humans can't, like high-pitched noises, microwave radiation, or some other mysterious force. While these reactions usually don't last long, some animals stay on edge for a while. Take cows, for instance. They might steer clear of fields where UFOs have been spotted, and just one sniff of a UFO landing site can send a dog sprinting away in terror. In one particularly wild tale, a couple was jolted awake by the frantic barking and growling of their 3 big guard dogs. The dogs were acting like something was seriously wrong, pulling at their chains, desperate to get to a nearby wooded area. But when the owners finally let them loose, the dogs did something unexpected. They froze. Instead of charging into the woods, they stood their ground, staring into the trees, growling, and then backing away as if something terrifying was lurking in the darkness. Just then, the couple saw a blinding flash of light coming from the woods. The next morning, they found strange, unexplained scorch marks where the light had been. Some folks argue that UFOs are just tricks of the mind, shaped by what we already believe. But that theory falls short, especially when UFOs leave behind solid physical evidence. Furthermore, many UFOs spotted by people are also picked up by radar, though not every time. There are even cases where these mysterious objects only show up on radar screens, completely invisible to the naked eye. Sure, weather conditions can sometimes create fake blips on radar, but that doesn't explain the bizarre maneuvers and sudden disappearances that UFOs are famous for. It's hard to chalk it all up to imagination when the radar is backing up what people are seeing, or not seeing, right in front of them. Over the years, countless photos and videos of UFOs have been scrutinized by experts. While many have been debunked as hoaxes, some stand out as eerily credible, matching up with what eyewitnesses reported seeing in the sky. One of the most famous cases happened in 1965 when George Adamski captured footage of a UFO in Maryland using an 8mm camera. The film showed a bizarre distortion around the object, leading physicist William Sherwood to speculate that it could be caused by an incredibly strong gravitational field surrounding the UFO. Another wild tale from 1965 involves Rex Heflin, a highway engineer who snapped 4 Polaroid photos of a shiny craft near Santa Ana, California. The UFO hovered, moved east, wobbled a bit, and then left a smoky ring behind it. Scientists who analyzed the photos found them puzzling but authentic. Then things took a bizarre turn. 2 men in plain clothes, claiming to be from North American Air Defense, showed up at Heflin's house. They borrowed 3 of the original photos for further analysis and disappeared, never to be seen again. Heflin was left with just 1 image, which when examined was still considered genuine. Fast forward to 1993, and the mystery deepened. Heflin received a strange phone call asking if he had checked his mailbox. After a second call, he found the missing photos inside a plain envelope. When examined with the latest technology, the pictures still held up as authentic, making Heflin's story one of the most intriguing in UFO history. The military has had its share of spine-tingling UFO encounters. Take the incident at White Sands Proving Ground. As they were prepping to launch a V-2 rocket, 2 tiny objects, just 2 to 3 feet wide, suddenly appeared out of nowhere. These mysterious objects zipped around the rocket like they were inspecting it, then vanished into thin air. The camera crew was so mesmerized by the UFOs that they had to hit pause on the rocket launch just to reload their cameras. Then there's the crazy event from July 17, 1957. A glowing, super-fast UFO tailed an Air Force RB-47 bomber for a staggering 1.5 hours. This wasn't just a blip on the radar. The cockpit crew saw it, ground radar tracked it, and the plane's electronic countermeasures gear picked it up too. The UFO played a cat-and-mouse game, disappearing and reappearing in bizarre patterns, showing up on all 3 systems at different times, leaving everyone involved scratching their heads. In 1956, a Canadian Air Force pilot snapped a photo of a mind-blowingly bright, disc-shaped UFO. This wasn't just any ordinary sighting. The craft was massive, over 100 meters wide, and radiated a jaw-dropping amount of power, estimated at around 1 billion watts by experts. When UFOs make an appearance, they often bring chaos in their wake. Car engines mysteriously stall, power grids go dark, and compasses spin like they've lost their sense of direction. The odd thing is, despite all this electrical havoc, these engine stalls almost never lead to crashes, as if the UFOs are toying with technology rather than destroying it. When these unidentified objects land, they sometimes leave behind eerie physical evidence. You might find circular or oval imprints scorched into the ground, surrounded by plants that are burned, flattened, or strangely dried out. And then there are those odd symmetrical marks that look suspiciously like they were made by some kind of landing gear, which hint at something far beyond our understanding touching down on Earth. One of the most intriguing UFO landing stories took place on January 8, 1981, in Aix-en-Provence, France. A local man reported seeing 2 saucer-shaped crafts make a brief landing before taking off at lightning speed. When experts from France's UFO investigation team, GEPAN, checked out the landing site, they found that the leaves and soil around the landing area had undergone bizarre changes. The leaves had lost 30 to 50% of their chlorophyll and were aging at an unnaturally fast rate, an effect that defied replication in the lab. The GEPAN team speculated that a powerful microwave blast could be the culprit behind these strange alterations. In addition to these unsettling findings, there are a few rare reports of UFOs dropping molten metal or leaving behind physical samples. However, these samples often turn out to be mundane materials like aluminum and tin, leaving the tantalizing question of alien origins still open. One of the most peculiar phenomena linked to UFO sightings is angel hair, a strange, silvery web-like material that sometimes rains down from the sky. This stuff looks like radioactive damaged cotton and is known for its eerie habit of vanishing almost as quickly as it appears. Then there's star jelly, which is a translucent jelly-like substance that falls from the heavens on rare occasions. Some speculate it might be the remnants of mysterious life forms from the atmosphere. Witnesses to UFO encounters sometimes report experiencing odd physical effects, like sudden dizziness, headaches, or even burns. For example, in 1973, an American truck driver had a harrowing experience when he spotted a bright, turnip-shaped UFO. Out of nowhere, a blinding red flash of fire struck him, melting his glasses and leaving him temporarily blind. Fortunately, he recovered after 3 weeks. In Brazil, rectangular UFOs, locally dubbed chupas, have sparked some chilling tales. These bizarre crafts are rumored to shoot beams at people, particularly hunters in the dead of night. The injuries resemble those from intense microwave exposure, but the tiny puncture marks left on the skin remain unexplained. The military has also had its share of dramatic encounters with UFOs. On November 23, 1953, a jet from Kinross Air Force Base in Michigan pursued an unidentified flying object. Radar tracked the plane and the UFO merging over Lake Superior, only for both to suddenly vanish from the screens. Despite a massive search effort, no wreckage or bodies were ever found, leaving this eerie episode shrouded in mystery. UFOs often turn up around military and nuclear sites, making them a major security concern for those in the know. The fascination with these elusive crafts isn't just about their mysterious appearances, it's also about their seemingly mind-boggling technology. If the rumors are to be believed, these UFOs could be operating on a whole other level of advanced tech that's far beyond anything we've dreamed up. For instance, Constable proposes that the dark spots and distortions in some UFO photos might be the result of this orgone energy interacting with the film. He believes this energy spins around the craft, causing funky shadows and odd distortions in photographs. He even quips that our grasp of light, color, and energy is so sketchy, it's like we're missing a giant piece of the cosmic puzzle. According to Constable, when UFOs are surrounded by intense orgone energy, they might mess with electrical systems, causing power outages and electromagnetic disturbances. This orgone energy could also create plasmas, which could be the reason for reports of burning or scorching around UFOs. And if that wasn't enough, being near high levels of orgone might leave people feeling dizzy, numb, or even temporarily blind. Constable also speculates that UFOs might seem to spin or appear as if they're spinning because of the swirling orgone energy around them. He draws a fascinating parallel to the way hummingbirds hover and zip around, suggesting that UFOs could be using their own life energy to move in similarly agile ways. So what on Earth, or beyond, could UFOs actually be? The possibilities are as wild as they are varied. They could be tangible, physical objects zipping around, or they might be fleeting, ethereal apparitions that only make a brief appearance. Some think they could be ghostly forms glimpsed through psychic visions, or even holographic projections flickering in and out of reality. There's also the chance that they're mind-bending illusions, either conjured up by people's own imaginations or manipulated by some external force. Just because UFOs don't always show up on radar doesn't mean they're not the real deal. And having a video of a UFO? That's intriguing, but it doesn't solidify its reality unless it leaves some concrete evidence behind, like tangible marks or traces on the ground. Let's dive into some truly head-spinning UFO encounters. On October 5, 1996, in Pelotas, Brazil, businessman and stunt flyer Geraldo Westendorf, a firm skeptic of UFOs, witnessed something that would challenge anyone's beliefs: an enormous cone-shaped object, towering at about 225 feet tall and stretching 325 feet wide. After circling it a few times, Westendorf saw a smaller saucer-shaped craft shoot out from the cone and rocket off into the sky at a breakneck speed. Despite the epic spectacle, the radar in Curitiba was blissfully unaware of this cosmic drama. Then there's the unforgettable event of June 14, 1968. Cuban reservist Isidro Puentes Ventura was on guard duty when he noticed a peculiar white light peeking through the trees. Curiosity led him to discover a glowing, round UFO adorned with antennas. Mistaking it for a high-tech American helicopter, Puentes didn't hesitate. He fired off about 40 rounds at the mysterious object. Things took a turn for the bizarre in Isidro Puentes Ventura's encounter. After opening fire on the UFO, the object flared up with a bright orange glow and started emitting a strange whistling sound. Suddenly, Isidro blacked out. When the clock struck midnight, machine gun fire echoed from his position, only for him to be found unconscious at dawn. Rushed to the hospital, Isidro spent 6 days unable to speak and remained in shock for an entire week. Now, let's take a trip to September 1984. During an Aeroflot flight, passengers and crew were treated to an otherworldly spectacle when they spotted a colossal yellow star in the sky that shot a brilliant beam of light down to the Earth. Then, in a dazzling display, the star unleashed 2 weaker beams and transformed into a swirling green cloud. Minsk ground control was left scratching their heads as they couldn't detect the anomaly on radar. However, air traffic controllers had a front-row seat to the cosmic light show. The UFO put on a shape-shifting performance, even mirroring the plane's form. At one point, it morphed into a bizarre wingless cloud with a pointed tail. The spectacle was so captivating that another airliner and several ground witnesses watched the green cloud tailing the plane for over an hour. Meanwhile, Tallinn radar captured 2 elusive blips trailing behind, though the plane's reflections kept mysteriously vanishing. Things took a chilling turn when the UFO fired a beam at another airliner, striking the 2 pilots on board. Tragically, one pilot later succumbed to a disease resembling cancer, while the other was left with permanent disabilities. UFOs seem to defy all logic with their bizarre behavior, appearing and disappearing in the blink of an eye, shifting shapes like liquid metal, and performing maneuvers that leave the laws of physics in the dust. Sometimes they vanish in a flash of light or a thunderous boom, making them seem like anything but your average flying contraption. There's even footage of a UFO accelerating so rapidly that it blinks out of sight, leaving everyone wondering if these crafts are part of a reality far beyond our understanding. Sometimes UFOs have the craziest disappearing acts, shrinking down or vanishing with just a puff of wind or a high-pitched whistle. There's even this wild story about a construction worker who saw a floating saucer with a shadowy figure next to it. The saucer then shot up into the sky and vanished in a shimmering blue haze, leaving everyone scratching their heads. Take October 1969, for instance. A French couple witnessed an oval UFO about the size of a VW Beetle chilling on the ground. In a blink, it lifted off, hovered for a moment, and then shot away like a rocket, weaving through trees as if they were mere wisps of smoke. It's almost like these UFOs have their own unknown set of physics, which can bend reality to their will. But there's a whole other realm of bizarre light phenomena that are just as mystifying. Take ball lightning, for example, a glowing orb of plasma that can be unusually large and behaves in ways that defy the norm. Unlike your typical lightning, it doesn't smash windows or fry circuits, and it seems to float or move with intention. One wild incident from 1954 involved a glowing ball of light about the size of a basketball that appeared right in front of a car. This glowing orb bounced 3 times before exploding with a dramatic flash. This explosion caused the car's engine to stall, a classic UFO-related issue. As if that wasn't strange enough, more of these glowing orbs appeared and began bouncing around in slow motion. Then there are the will-o'-the-wisps, those eerie lights from folklore that are said to lure people astray or hint at bad omens. Traditionally, these mysterious lights are chalked up to gases rising from marshy areas, but some of them burn cold, which doesn't quite fit the bill. As UFO sightings became more common, the term UFO started to cover a whole range of these strange light phenomena. Another set of baffling lights are the earthquake and volcano lights, which tend to make an appearance before, during, or after major natural disasters. These lights can look like glowing streamers or floating orbs, and sometimes even show up at sea, linked to underwater quakes. Sailors have reported seeing enormous, silent wheels of light drifting across the ocean, but scientists often dismiss these sightings as mere optical illusions or natural effects. Earthlight sightings often pop up in areas with intense geological activity, like where fault lines are constantly grinding away. Researchers like Paul Devereaux and Michael Persinger speculate that these lights might be connected to the stress and strain building up in the Earth's crust, though the exact science behind this remains a mystery. In some lab experiments, scientists have attempted to recreate these enigmatic light forms, but the results often fall short of explaining the phenomena. It's like trying to mimic a magic trick with a few sleight-of-hand moves, but coming up short every time. The usual theory that they're just plasmas doesn't quite cut it, leaving the true nature of these lights still up for debate. On March 14, 1983, Police Sergeant Tony Dodd captured a stunning shot of 2 glowing orbs hovering over Carlton Moor in England. One of these mysterious lights even illuminated the underside of a low-hanging cloud, adding to the area's reputation for strange lights and unexplained phenomena. Fast forward to 1973, and we have David Kubrin and his wife witnessing a dazzling light show near Pinnacle's National Monument in California. This bright light zipped above the treetops, creating shockwaves and performing impossible maneuvers like sudden stops and spins, blending seamlessly into the air. Kubrin managed to snap a photo, capturing a golden core surrounded by a brilliant flare against a darkening sky. Pinnacles, situated near the San Andreas Fault and a labyrinthine cave system, seems to be a hotspot for these baffling displays. Earthlights come in all kinds of quirky shapes and sizes. Imagine tiny orbs the size of ping-pong balls, or massive blobs as big as basketballs, and they can be round, cylindrical, rectangular, or just completely offbeat. Some people even say these lights seem to have a life of their own, with strange activity happening inside them. These lights often make peculiar noises, like hissing or buzzing, and they can move in packs, splitting and merging as if they're performing a cosmic dance. They might suddenly pop up from the ground or vanish into it, frequently spotted near water, mountain peaks, or other remote places with strong electromagnetic vibes. This connection to electromagnetic fields might explain their dazzling brightness and sharp edges, despite the lack of visible rays. Devereux has a mind-bending theory that Earthlights could be some bizarre form of electromagnetism, or even a totally new force messing with the electromagnetic spectrum. He draws parallels to ancient ideas like the Chinese concept of chai or the Australian kurumba. Essentially, these are believed to be fundamental forces driving energy and matter. He also proposes that many UFO sightings might actually be disguised Earthlights. Over 40% of UFO reports come from regions with geological faults, where there's a whole lot of electrical, magnetic, or gravitational weirdness going on. Even ghostly poltergeist activity seems to spike in these areas, suggesting a possible link between Earthlights and intense geomagnetic activity. But here's where things get trickier. This theory doesn't cover every UFO sighting. Sometimes UFOs appear in areas with no seismic activity whatsoever. Plus, while Earthlights are usually tiny, only a few meters across, some UFOs are colossal, and while Earthlights might scorch a few plants, they can't account for those enormous, solid crafts that leave behind unmistakable landing traces. To tackle the mystery of close encounters with aliens, some theorists expand on the tectonic strain idea, suggesting that electromagnetic activity from fault lines could trigger hallucinations. The theory goes that intense electromagnetic fields might scramble our brains, especially when we're exhausted or in altered states, like the early hours of the morning or during long, sleepy road trips. This might lead to bizarre experiences where people believe they're having encounters with extraterrestrials. Michael Persinger's research dives into the brain's temporal lobes, suggesting that tweaking these areas can lead to mind-blowing experiences. Imagine your brain getting a sudden jolt, and suddenly you're seeing demons, angels, or even aliens. Persinger's findings hint that some of those alien encounters might just be brain glitches, intense, vivid hallucinations triggered by unusual brain activity. Both Devereux and Persinger speculate that energy from fault lines could be scrambling our brains, leading to those otherworldly alien encounters, especially when we're in altered states. But here's the twist. Their theory doesn't quite cover how ordinary electromagnetic fields could consistently produce the detailed and vivid experiences that many people report. So while some UFO sightings might be a product of these brain glitches, the true causes might be a bit more intricate. Kenneth Ring offers a fascinating spin on these bizarre experiences. He suggests that our brains aren't just creating these experiences, they're tuning into them. Imagine your brain as a TV set. It's not generating the shows, but it's dialed into the right channel to catch them. So while your brain might need to be tuned correctly to experience certain things, it's not the one putting on the show. Now let's dive into a mind-blowing concept: UFOs as aerial bioforms, or sky creatures. Trevor Constable, an aviation historian with a flair for the unusual, has been snapping infrared photos of these elusive critters, which are usually invisible to the naked eye. His images reveal a bizarre array of shapes: spherical, disc-like, and even fish-shaped beings gracefully gliding through the sky. Are these creatures living entities or high-tech crafts from other dimensions? Constable has a wild theory that some of these aerial bioforms can actually alter their density, allowing them to flicker between invisible and visible states. Imagine them expanding and contracting like living balloons as they soar through the air. Sometimes they form glowing clusters, resembling schools of fish darting through the sky. And get this, they might have some smarts of their own. Reports suggest these sky critters have been seen playing with clouds, interacting with aircraft, and even dodging attempts to capture them on camera. Here are some mind-blowing encounters with these aerial bioforms. On August 25, 1957, in California's Mojave Desert, infrared film captured an astonishing sight: a massive amoeba-like creature with visible internal structures like nuclei. In May 1975, Constable's young daughter, Diana, used high-speed infrared film to photograph an invisible critter. Her shot also captured a mysterious cloudbuster, a device supposedly used for weather manipulation. In January 1981, Genoa, Italy, became a hotspot for eerie activity. Invisible plasmoids were detected by infrared and magnetic sensors, causing a frenzy of readings. Photos revealed haunting blue and white shapes drifting through the air, unseen by the naked eye. Radar is like the ultimate game of hide-and-seek. It can sometimes spot things that are completely invisible to the human eye. By sending out microwaves that bounce off objects and return to the radar, it reveals their location. During World War II, radar became famous for picking up bizarre objects that defied explanation, even though they weren't visible. Take the Nansei Shoto incident, for example. While patrolling near Okinawa, 2 US aircraft carriers had their radar go wild, detecting a massive swarm of objects zipping around at breakneck speeds. Despite the clear skies and immediate scramble of fighter jets to investigate, the pilots reported seeing nothing. The mysterious enemy swooped right over the fleet, leaving the crew staring at an empty sky. It was as if the objects had blinked in and out of existence. When radar detects objects that shouldn't be there, they're often dubbed radar ghosts or angels. Some folks try to pass them off as birds or strange gas bubbles, but Trevor Constable has a wilder theory. He thinks many of these anomalies might be mysterious, living entities. Radar can sometimes make UFOs behave in some seriously odd ways. For example, 2 naval officers once observed UFOs bouncing off radar beams as if they were rubber balls slamming into a wall. It seemed like the UFOs were actively dodging something they didn't like, as if they were sentient beings reacting to an annoying pest. In 1950, New Jersey became the stage for its own UFO saga. UFOs seemed to be everywhere, prompting the government to deploy radar towers on trucks in a bid to catch them in action. The radar would make the UFOs wobble and stagger, but despite their best efforts, the UFOs always managed to slip away. Eventually, the radar trucks were pulled out. Interestingly, the UFOs had a peculiar habit of sticking to certain spots, like near water sources, almost like they were following some kind of animal instinct. Radar doesn't usually make conventional planes wobble, but it can definitely mess with living tissue, sometimes even scorching it with its intense energy. One of the most bizarre encounters with a sky creature happened in Crawfordsville, Indiana, in 1891. Witnesses reported a headless beast stretching 20 feet long and 8 feet wide. This bizarre creature had fins, a blazing red eye, and made an eerie wheezing noise. It hovered and flapped its fins as it glided overhead, and people could actually feel the hot breath emanating from it. In 1925, Don Wood and his buddy stumbled upon something truly bizarre on Flat Mesa near Battle Mountain, Nevada. They came across a strange, mica-like entity stretching about 8 feet across. It had no visible eyes or legs and was oozing a metallic froth from a mysterious wound. Just when they thought it couldn't get any weirder, a much larger creature appeared. Both of these otherworldly beings then took off at breakneck speed, leaving behind a strong stench and a trail of weird metallic goo. Fast forward to 1927, when Nicholas Roerich and his crew were exploring the Altai-Himalaya region. They spotted a dazzling oval object streaking through the sky. The object suddenly changed direction and vanished into thin air. A local Buddhist monk was quick to interpret this as a sign from a mystical realm known as Shambhala. In 1933, climber Frank Smythe had a jaw-dropping encounter while scaling Mount Everest. As he reached higher altitudes, he spotted 2 bizarre kite-shaped objects hovering in the sky. One had what looked like undeveloped wings, while the other sported a beak-like protrusion. These strange shapes were pulsating and drifting way up high, leaving the locals to speculate that they might be spiritual omens or signs from the heavens. Fast forward to 1940 in Darjeeling, India, where locals were abuzz with reports of peculiar fast-moving lights in the foothills. These lights, reminiscent of lanterns, were dubbed Chota Admis, or little men who made their appearances exclusively at night. The locals believed these tiny, elusive beings avoided human contact and had a knack for making people ill if they ventured too close. In 1937, on the sacred slopes of Wu Tai Shan in China, European visitors were treated to a celestial light show. They saw glowing orange, fluffy fireballs frolicking through the night sky. These fiery orbs danced their way across the heavens between midnight and 2 a.m., leaving the spectators awestruck and convinced they were witnessing divine omens. Fast forward to March 1973 in Marfa, Texas, where two geologists stumbled upon their own celestial spectacle. They watched as two mysterious lights darted around with playful abandon. One light swooped close to the ground, performing a dazzling close-up before merging with its partner. The lights seemed to engage in a cosmic game of tag, expertly evading the geologists' attempts to get a clearer view. After their final dazzling fusion, the lights vanished, leaving the geologists with a story that would light up their conversations for years to come. These sightings open the door to a thrilling array of unexplained phenomena, from potential sky creatures to mystical glowing orbs, each with its own strange and captivating behavior. Take the Tri-State or Hornet Spooklight in northeastern Oklahoma, for instance. This legendary light show has sparked numerous theories, though some lights turn out to be nothing more than reflections from car headlights. But the truly enigmatic ones remain a mystery. On one particularly eerie night, a group of 10 to 15 people witnessed a glowing orb, about the size of a basketball, floating just 30 feet away on a lonely road. It shone with a haunting orange-yellow hue, pulsing and rolling in a slow, hypnotic dance. The onlookers were so entranced that they remained eerily quiet, afraid to disturb the spectacle. But when the rumble of cars crunching over the gravel broke the spell, the orb split into two and vanished into the woods, disappearing in opposite directions like a ghostly escape act. On July 29, 1947, just a few weeks after his landmark UFO sighting, Kenneth Arnold had another jaw-dropping encounter. As he was landing his plane in La Grande, Oregon, he suddenly spotted what appeared to be a flotilla of enormous gleaming ducks, each one stretching 3 to 5 feet across, flying straight at him. These bizarre avian apparitions veered away at the last second, leaving Arnold bewildered and scratching his head. Fast forward to 1952, and Arnold was back at it, this time with a camera in hand. While filming near Mount Lassen, he observed two UFOs darting below him. One of the objects was solid and unmistakable, but the other was oddly transparent, with the pine trees on the ground visible through its shimmering surface. This second encounter led Arnold to entertain a radical thought. Maybe some UFOs weren't just advanced spacecraft, but living, breathing creatures from another realm. By April 1949, the US Air Force had started noticing a peculiar trend. Some glowing UFOs seen at high altitudes seemed to pulse rhythmically. The idea that these might be some sort of bizarre living creatures was even floated around, and the Air Force began taking this theory more seriously. Then, in the summer of 1975, a science teacher from New York had an encounter that would make anyone's morning unforgettable. As he looked up from his house, he saw a dark cloud, about the size of a basketball, morphing through a series of strange shapes, from a tiny, compact globe to a sprawling, wobbly mist. The cloud then performed a truly bizarre trick. It seemed to inhale deeply before showering him and his car with a fine spray of water. A pH test later revealed that the spray was just plain water, leaving the teacher with the impression that the cloud was more like a mischievous spirit having a bit of fun. In the spring of 1951, a group of US soldiers stationed in Korea had a close encounter of the freaky kind. They spotted a glowing, disc-shaped UFO hovering nearby. When one brave soldier fired at it, the UFO went haywire, flashing its lights and emitting a noise like a generator on steroids. The soldiers experienced a burning sensation from a beam emitted by the UFO, and just 3 days later, they were so weak that they had to be evacuated. Interestingly, when people shoot at UFOs, their bullets often strike with a metallic clang, suggesting that these mysterious crafts might be made of metal rather than being alive in the conventional sense. This aligns with the idea of UFOs as mica-like entities similar to the strange creatures reported by Don Wood. In mid-1964, Rio Vista, California, became the stage for a bizarre spectacle. A strange metallic creature, looking like a giant glowing cigar about 12 to 15 feet long, appeared in the skies. It had a soft red glow that made it stand out against the backdrop of the trees. On September 22, 1965, hundreds of people witnessed this object, either hovering or slowly drifting above the treetops. When some daring kids aimed their .22 rifles at it, the UFO flared up in a bright red burst before retreating. Jump to January 1966 in northern Queensland, Australia, where a farmer spotted a disc-shaped object lifting off from a cluster of water reeds. The reeds were flattened into a circular pattern and then turned a peculiar brown. This unusual formation, often called a UFO nest, has been reported in various locations around the globe. The way those reeds were flattened in a swirling anti-clockwise pattern made it look like something really energetic was at play, almost like a mini tornado had been spinning around. Trevor Constable believes that UFOs might use a mysterious energy called Orgone to hover and move things around, which could explain how they yank reeds out of the water with such precision. Then there was the jaw-dropping encounter in January 1958, when an Aussie had a run-in with a dome-shaped UFO that decided to make him its personal chase scene. This UFO blasted a beam of light and followed him for a nerve-wracking 5 kilometers, playing havoc with his radio and zipping past his car at breakneck speeds. Not every UFO with flashy lights is a spaceship from another world. Take October 1973, for instance. A Mississippi cop spotted a spinning top-shaped object decked out with flashing lights and hissing jets. His car and radio went haywire, and then, just like that, the mysterious object vanished into thin air. Fast forward to 1982, when Keith Boyer and a friend witnessed something even stranger. They saw a ball of rotating lights shrouded in mist, hovering in mid-air. Out of nowhere, it flared up brilliantly and shot a beam of light straight at their car. The next thing Boyer knew, he was sitting still, speaking in a language he didn't recognize, and utterly baffled until everything snapped back to normal. In Brazil, there's a peculiar type of UFO called chupas, known for their rectangular shape and their knack for zapping people with beams of light that can leave them feeling utterly drained. Locals have learned that shouting loudly is a pretty effective way to scare these strange crafts away. Over in Lone Pine, California, a couple had a surreal encounter with a glowing UFO that hovered above a grove of trees. The light from the craft seemed to pulse rhythmically with their breathing, creating a bizarre, eerie dance of illumination. When they attempted to snap a photo of the mesmerizing sight, the UFO zipped away at lightning speed, disappearing into the night with not a sound. In 1950, a U.S. Navy plane soaring over Korea had an unsettling encounter with 2 high-speed, mirror-like objects that seemed to shadow its every move. When the crew prepared their guns, the radar went berserk, and strange noises drowned out all attempts at communication, leaving the plane in a surreal state of technological chaos. Fast forward to April 14, 1991, in Oklahoma, where a young woman had a mind-bending experience with a large silver UFO. This strange craft wasn't just hovering around, it was mimicking her every move. When she jumped to one side, the UFO mirrored her exactly, creating a bizarre game of cosmic follow the leader. These tales suggest that UFOs might be more than just advanced spacecraft. They could also be sentient, intelligent entities with their own quirky behaviors and responses. Far from just being high-tech machines, these mysterious visitors might be alive, reacting to us in ways that are both baffling and fascinating.